My name is Robbie Bear. So I was born and raised in Chestertown. I attended Kent County Public Schools all the way through. I got my undergraduate degree at Williams College, which is consistently ranked by U.S. News and World Report as the #1 liberal arts college in the nation. I got my graduate degree and worked for 10 years in communications and design, and then returned to Chestertown to start a business with my husband and to have a family. 2 of my kids are currently at Garnett, with 1 and a half more due to enroll in the next few years. So I'm only bringing up my credentials to you all here today because when I tried to get your take on this issue of school funding, you, Mr. Fithian, suggested that I was, quote, from another planet, and you, Mr. Pickram, simply refused to meet with me. Thank you, Mr. Short, for bucking the trend and actually sitting down to speak with one of your constituents. I want to assure that everyone in this room that not only am I from this planet, but I am from this county and a proud and successful product of our public schools. So I first became involved in this effort when consolidation was presented as the only solution to the district's budget challenges. I, like many people, first blamed the Board of Ed and Dr. Couch. But I got together with other concerned parents, and we started doing our research to try to understand the issue, looking into the school budget, talking with board members, meeting with Dr. Couch, and analyzing historical spending of the board. It soon became evident that our board is completely reliant on you for their budget, and that for at least the past 6 years has been forced to make decisions based on dollars instead of what is actually best for our students and families. This is what I and my small group of concerned parents have concluded. For years, the county has been shirking its responsibility to provide adequate funding for our kids' education. For years, you have been able to avoid making hard decisions because you've been riding on the backs of other people in the county who work tirelessly to fill the shortfall. For the last 5 years, you haven't provided sufficient funding to pay our teachers and staff to step, not to mention the cost of living increases that other counties provide, which amounts to 5 years of our teachers being underpaid and approximately $3 million in savings to you. As a result, many of our teachers are forced to work second jobs, and all of them spend their own money to pay for classroom supplies because they care that much. For at least 3 years, Kent Forward and our community business members have been donating funds to cover expenses that frankly the county should be responsible for. Last year alone, Dixon provided $100,000 for books and supplies to show their commitment to our kids. But really, should they have to? I personally don't believe that this should be their job. The county is also responsible for all of our school buildings, and yet in 15 years, you have consistently avoided funding important maintenance projects, including roof and HVAC repairs, that now have become so dire that they cost upwards of $3 million apiece. The neglect is bordering on catastrophic. These are the sorts of costs that would normally be covered in the fund balance, had you not gutted it last spring. You have asked Dr. Couch to spend down her fund balance before you'll give the schools any more money. Having money in the fund balance is not a case of foolishly sitting on piles of money, this misconception that you continue to promote to the community. Anyone familiar with good fiscal policy knows that healthy institutions set aside money to pay for unforeseen contingencies rather than waiting for crisis and then begging for emergency funding. And yet you are able, in slide 5 of your current proposed county budget, to boast about your strong fiscal position with your own fund balance of 7.3%. You point to your lack of new debt and how you're not going to raise taxes. And you were so proud to report that at the end of last year you were $3.5 million in the black. These are on surface positive accomplishments, but they obscure the fact that for years the county has been forcing others to fill the gaps in education so that you can look good on your own balance sheet. At best, it's savvy political work, because why would you pay for something yourself when you can coerce others into paying it for you? And at worst, it is willful ignorance and an abysmal lack of leadership. To increase awareness of these pervasive problems, our group has launched the Support Our Schools initiative. To date, we've collected more than 250 signatures on our petition asking you to increase the county education budget with the goal of making our schools truly excellent and to restore the decision-making power to our elected school board and professional educators. Tonight, we are asking you to step up and be leaders on this issue and to stop passing the buck. Here's our petition. And I'm glad I didn't mention that ballot measure. I think we were trying to do it.
I'm Krista. My son was at Wharton last year in first grade, and he's there again now. And I want to sort of paint a picture for you what it was like to be at Wharton last year. So at the end of the school year, it was the final PTA meeting, and the outgoing leadership was explaining how challenging and demoralizing the previous year had been, and how they personally could not continue to be part of the PTA anymore. So the call goes out for volunteers to take over leadership of the PTA, and no one raises their hand. No one. The PTA leaders explain that if they don't have a minimum of 2 people to take over the PTA will cease to exist at Wharton Elementary School. And do you know how many people raise their hands then? 0. I work, I go to grad school full time, and I'm a single mom. I'm one of the 2 people who finally volunteered to run the PTA at Wharton. And it is overwhelming. And I look around and see what is happening to our schools and our teachers and our administrators, and it's overwhelming and it's demoralizing. Everyone is looking over their shoulder, wondering, will I be here next year? Will she? Will I get to keep the raise I got? Will I get to keep the raise I got last year? This is one of the craziest things I've heard. You have teachers who get a raise one year that may not exist the following year, which means we can't even provide a consistent, equitable salary to our teachers. That's insane. So we have teachers leaving for better paying counties because they have to work 2 jobs to make life work in Kent County. We have families leaving Kent County because the schools are inadequate for them. Something is broken here. So let me get back to my wheelhouse. I'm vice president of the PTA, and before tonight, I didn't know if my son's school would be around next year. Now I just don't know if it'll be around 3 years from now. And that's a bit demoralizing. And the parents who do volunteer are really engaged and also demoralized. And the teachers and administrators work really hard and do an amazing job with our children. And I know they are worried and concerned and wish things were a whole lot different. So from where I'm standing, this system is broken. And there's a leadership and accountability failure in this county. And I know each of you understands leadership and accountability. You or members of your family have each served your country in the military, as have I. I had 20 years of service in the Navy. 13 of those years I was active duty jet pilot flying on and off of aircraft carriers. One thing I'm confident we all saw in the military was good leadership and bad leadership. And we learned a lot from both types. So this county needs good leaders. But what I hear in this county are the leaders placing the blame elsewhere. And I'm wondering when the leaders are going to start inspiring our county. When are the leaders going to own these problems and demonstrate their good leadership and be accountable and fix what's broken? Be a part of the solution. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want your tenure to be remembered? Show us your inspiring leadership and help inspire creative solutions in this county instead of talking about how people are just getting old. That's not a solution. Please, lead, be accountable, do what needs to be done, be a part of the solution for the long-term health of our schools in this county. Please.
My name is Jody Borks. I have 2 children who attend Garden Elementary. I went there myself. I graduated from Kent County High School. And after that, after graduating from college in PA, I was in management at Dun & Bradstreet, and then a spin-off company where I led a team responsible for managing financial and back office functions for Fortune 50 companies. I say that because it's been intimated that some of the mommies don't understand the intricacies of the finances involved. So I wanted to make clear that I have looked at every line item, and
Where would you get that? Where would you get that kind of comment?
I've
From where?
the correspondence has been going back and forth.
From who?
I'm also a 14th generation Eastern Shore resident. I moved back to be part of this community. I opened a shop on High Street. I volunteer in the community and in schools, and not just in my own kids' classes. Today was supposed to be my day off, and I was subbing in Rock Hall because they needed somebody. I was personally invested as you can get, and I find myself questioning my family's future here because of the lack of support for our kids' education, and by extension, me and my commitment to the community. I've heard the argument that you're tied to maintenance effort, so I'd like to speak to that. I agree with you, the calculation is flawed. After all, teachers aren't paid per student, neither are bus drivers, or facility repairs, or any other number of things. I completely agree with you. That being tied to that kind of ties your hands in a way, but we pay you, we elected you to go beyond that and to come up with other solutions. Some other things that I'd like to draw attention to is that Cecil County teacher reviewer lives in Chestertown. A top-ranked state-level teacher lives here and doesn't work here because we're not paying competitively. 40%, according to the most recent census, 40% of the children that live in Kent County don't go to our schools here. So how do we fix that? How do we change that perception? And perception is reality, let's face it. If the perception is that the support isn't there, then what do we do to change that perception? We need to think about what it will take to bring them back. And if people see us investing, then maybe they'll do the same. I hope to look at this time right now as an opportunity to make that investment. Under the current school leadership, we've started to see some improvements. Our kindergarten kids are #1 in the state in readiness. Our high school just got great news about the ELA and Algebra 2 results for the PARCC test. We can build on this, but we have such a long way to go. With a commitment to investing in our schools long term, we can bring back students that left and encourage new families and employers to come here. We would also better support the workforce and employers that we have who stuck with us and keep our economy strong. This will be your legacy. My generation will remember yours to the next if we're still here. I love this place. I love this community. I love being a part of it. And I think we can do great things, but we need to step up and make this commitment to our children. If we don't, more people like me, and maybe even me, will have to dig up our deep roots and leave. And I don't want to do that. I really, really want to make this work. So that's all I have to say.
My name is Ed Silver. I'm the Human Resources Supervisor at Kent County Public Schools. Tonight, Dr. Calchin, Mr. Reed talked a little bit about the teacher shortage and the need to attract and recruit highly qualified people to be educators in our schools. One thing I've learned in my 27 years here in Kent County is that what makes the biggest difference is the quality of our teachers, the quality of our educators, and our school leaders. We're going through a time right now where nationwide we're starting to see a teacher shortage, to the point where Maryland is a net importer of teachers. Last year we hired 11,000 teachers for the state of Maryland. Our schools only produce 2,500. And therefore, we import teachers from Pennsylvania, other states around the country. The problem is Pennsylvania has seen in the last 2 years a reduction from 18,000 to 7,000, the number of new teachers produced in the state of Pennsylvania. So they're starting to see the same problem. We have to be careful and make sure that our what we provide can attract the kind of educators we need in our schools. We hired 20 new teachers this year, but out of the teaching staff of 160, that's a large percentage of teachers. Those salaries don't tell the full story. As of this year, our average teacher salary was 20th in the state. For our administrators, it was 23rd out of 24 systems. I think what we do there, and what we can provide, really shows how we value education. But it's more than that as well, because there's a savvy that they're coming in, our new teachers coming in, looking and comparing across systems. For instance, we don't always provide the highest salaries. We provide perhaps a lower course reimbursement for those who are going for their master's degree. Or do we pay it the same amount in terms of our health care reimbursement? If you go across the river, a first-year teacher who's single has 100% of their health care taken care of. That's not something we can provide. So we have some areas that we really need to work on as a community to support and to attract new teachers. And part of this is also going to be our creativity. We mentioned before the need for good, solid housing for our teachers and our professionals who are coming into the area. We don't like to say, you can look at Middletown, Delaware, or check Centerville or another location. We would like our teachers to stay here and live in the community. And overall, we work very hard to try to get people who are renting properties to share that information with us. But have we ever considered housing assistance, moving expenses? The concern with spouses who can't find a good paying job, that becomes an issue. And we had a teacher this year who's looking elsewhere for that exact reason. So we've seen some real improvements over the last 3 years. We believe we're heading in the right direction, and we can bring that momentum about. But we're only going to be as good as the people that we can attract, we can recruit, and we can retain. And as a system and as a county, we really need to work together on this. And I implore you to do so. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. I'd just like to share a few thoughts from the perspective of someone who's been immersed in curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Not only from the role as a supervisor for the elementary schools, but also as a parent of 3 children that are part of the school system. Over the past 15 years, we have really worked hard in terms of embracing the changes and demands that have been placed upon our teachers. We've had a complete change in terms of the Common Core standards, the resources that we are using, and also all the professional development and training that goes hand in hand with that. I want to publicly acknowledge and applaud the hard work that our teachers do. And you've heard that over and over again. I think the fact that we recognize this challenge, and we want to also ask for your continued support and your leadership in terms of helping us help them in the most effective way. In terms of professional development, that's an area in particular that's a passion of mine. It not only takes place during the school day, but our teachers willingly stay after school. This is something that matters to them. You've probably heard that since Dr. Couch has come on board, professional learning communities are huge. And what that is an opportunity for teachers to work together, to collaborate, to really provide the best instruction possible for our students. We need your help in continuing that momentum to not only do what's right for our students, but do what's right for our county so that quality education can be provided to all. So what I'm asking is that we consider going beyond maintenance of effort so that we can go beyond your expectations. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm a secondary supervisor, and I'm just going to speak to you from my heart. I moved here in 1974, and I've been involved in the school system since 1983 when my oldest started kindergarten. I was a classroom volunteer, I was PTA president, I was a long-term substitute, I was a student teacher, a principal, so I've seen a lot of aspects of Kent County, and I've networked both across the state and across the country. You won't find a more caring, dedicated, or talented staff anywhere. I am a Kent County taxpayer, as you can tell. I love living here. I'm proud to be here. I think we've made a lot of progress over the last few years. I don't think we can continue making that progress without your full support. There's nothing more important than the success of our children, because we won't keep the beautiful place that we live in without their long-term ability to contribute to the world. So thank you.
Good evening, friends. I just wanted to go on record as the Economic Development Coordinator for the town of Chestertown to make that statement that I know we all realize, but I feel I do need to make it tonight, that so much of what we're trying to accomplish, what we're working to accomplish in economic development in the town and the county is going to be built on a solid foundation of good, successful schools. It affects our ability to attract and retain young families, as we're hearing very passionately here tonight. It affects our ability to attract new businesses and help our current businesses grow and be successful. It affects those businesses' ability to attract and retain good employees. And it affects things like how well our hospital can add services and continue to provide the quality of care that the community has been very vocal about demanding. And I applaud the families who have come here tonight, these young mothers in particular. It takes a lot of courage to get up and say these things with passion and devotion, and I appreciate that. And I'm hearing from them a call to how important this issue is in the same way we called the community's attention to the hospital. You know, it's an urgent need, and I think we all need to realize, whether we're young families or retirees, that the quality of our schools is affecting so many other areas. So thank you for this hearing tonight, and Good luck with everything. Thanks, everybody.
My name is Francoise Sullivan. I'm a parent and small business owner in Kent County. Most of my clients are also small business owners and nonprofits in Kent County. My husband and I moved here almost 15 years ago. We live in Worden and have a child at Galena Elementary School, and I'm an active member of my PTA, and I'm happy to be able to contribute my time and money to our public schools. I'm invested in our community and in our county. Like many parents, I began spending more time digging into the status of our school funding when consolidation talks began in 2015. Since that time, I have done research, shared information, attended meetings, asked questions, and met with other people and organizations who are also interested and invested in the success of our schools. Most recently, we met with Dick Goodall, Linda Dawson, and other representatives of Dixon Valve and Camp Forward. During our meeting, we shared with them the alarming results of a recent teacher survey that we had conducted. Of the 31 teachers who responded, which would be the equivalent of an entire school in our district, almost half had second jobs to supplement their incomes. 100% of those surveyed said that they had already spent between $20 and $900 of their own money this school year for supplies in their classroom, and that they will continue to spend between $10 and $250 a month for supplies during the school year. Most teachers said they average an additional 10 to 15 hours a week outside of school on school-related work. I personally help run fundraising campaigns for teachers at Galena Elementary School for flexible furniture for their classrooms, and I'm proud to say that we were able to raise over $400 for each of those classrooms, which is $400 that those teachers won't have to spend out of their own pockets. We also met with Tom McHugh and discussed the arts advocacy work that he is doing for Kent County Public Schools with Gina Jakimowicz, I'm so sorry. He told us about the teacher mentor program he is involved in and what talented teachers he has met. We discussed how discouraging it is that arts teachers at our middle school are having to cut the number of their arts classes down to accommodate the need for a teacher in other core classes because our school district doesn't have the money to hire more teachers. We have great, caring teachers who are doing great things. The recent ARC scores and kindergarten readiness are proof of that. Our students are doing great things, and they're paying attention. They know what it feels like to succeed. But they won't have that feeling very long if programs such as music, art, and languages continue to be cut because of budget shortfalls. They won't have that feeling very long if they see that their county doesn't make their education a priority. Why are parents and teachers having to pay for classroom supplies? Why are teachers being shuffled around to fill in gaps in our staffing? Why are our schools struggling and cutting and trying to make ends meet when our county commissioners are sitting on a fund balance of $3 million? That is tax money that the county has already collected, my taxes and my neighbors' taxes. Why try to pass a ballot question about raising taxes when you have the funds and are the decision makers? You've got money for many greater good projects, including low-income seniors property tax credits, the water and sewer fee supplements, and more. Supporting our schools is the greatest of the greater good that you can do. Thank you.
You see the numbers where we've got buildings that are becoming, and it's not because we haven't spent money. Go back and look at the budgets of Kent County government. We have spent more money in the last 20 years in schools, whether it's the high school, whether it's Garnett. We've done our due diligence. The state will only fund projects when those times come due to be funded. So your HVAC systems that expire, they expire because the state says we're only going to fund it over every so many years. Roads, we have to do patchwork on those because the state says we're only going to fund this. So I would suggest some of this you take to the legislators of the state, as well as coming to us and giving us your opinion of what's going on here. I believe we have done our due diligence. I believe by putting the internet in every home in Kent County, the potential of having that within the next 2 years is going to help all these systems that Dr. Couch sits here and talk about all evening. Your kids, if you live out in Drake Manor, don't have that access. Or if you live in Kentmore Park, don't have that access. Yes, you live in Chestertown, you have that access. All over the county doesn't have. We put money away to handle those projects. Did we do our due diligence with the school system? I believe we did. I believe we stepped up to the plate. I believe we stepped up for the rest of the county. So to say there's lack of leadership here, I'm sorry to say, anybody in this room in the next 2 years can certainly step up to the plate and run for this leadership position. And you'll actually see the numbers that we have here that we have to work on, where 42% of the budget goes to the school system. You know, I'm not coming out here to chastise you I'm just letting you know the facts. Grab our budgets. If you think there's more money out there, grab it. You would ask that person out in Knights Landing, can they afford more in property taxes to live in Kent County? I'd suggest you go out and ask them. I suggest you drive all over the county and ask taxpayers in general, can we afford more? Some in this room are saying they can. I can tell you right now, I don't want to pay one more damn dime in property taxes. Period. I don't. I think Dr. Couch is doing a great job. If you're willing to sit there and allow us to consolidate, because Dr. Couch says that's the best thing for the county, would I give more maintenance benefit to make sure our kids get more money to infuse in the teachers? Absolutely. But if we're sitting there maintaining buildings that make no sense to maintain, because we have 130 kids in them, I'll sit here right today and say, I will not go over maintenance better, in maintenance better. Will I give her $500,000 next year to do more work? Absolutely. Did they give her $150,000 to put a new football field in? Absolutely. I just think some things that are said here, unless you sit here, unless you're following us every week, I'd suggest also everybody in this room who has complained, sit in here for the next 52 weeks. Every week. I don't see you in here any other time except for now. Come in all 52 weeks, 4 times a year. Come in every single week, sit in these seats so you get educated more on what we do, instead of coming in here condemning us for what we do. That you have no idea. And I know I just pissed some of you off for a week.
He's passing the buck.
You know,
We'll just
there's no
leave it
buck
there.
being passed.
It's.
There's no, half of the statements
When
you made were wrong.
you say lack of leadership, and you say it's not lack of leadership, it's too hard up here.
And you're also.
Nobody said it's too hard. We make the decisions we have with the means we have to make them. Period. There's only so many dollars to go around. We make those decisions on that and that basis only.
Would you agree, though, that you have the money in your fund balance now to cover what Dr. Couch is asking for?
Recurring costs? Absolutely not. We don't know what the recurring cost is the following year. So no, we do not. It takes us to 7.3% to maintain payroll. Property taxes come in cycles. If we don't have 7.3% fund balance, bills don't get paid. That is not but a revolving door to make sure our bills get paid.
This is the first year that you've had a 7%.
No, we run a 7% all the time. We maintain a 7%. We had something we were taking money back for the last 3 years to better your children, Francois.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna see 10%, but you're gonna see that because that money was sitting there for that infusion of
Well, guess what, they have to do
$4.5
the
million.
same thing. Why are you allowed to stockpile your money for an important project that I totally agree with, and I think is super important, and I'm really glad that you chose to do that with your money? But why is she not allowed to do the same thing? with
Because
her
she didn't.
funds?
She didn't spend it. She let the school system, the football field go in her 2 years here. Now, don't get me wrong. She's doing wonderful things. But that money was in an account and wasn't being spent when our children were playing football on a field by her own admission with collapsed sewer drains, or drains system. And the commissioners gave them the money. And you knew that because you were here at the last meeting.
I did know that. I know that they paid for the football field. Guess what? That football field.
Where were you when the last superintendent let the books go for 15 years?
I was not
Which
here.
Dr. Couch wasn't responsible for, but took care of.
We were asking.
Nobody came up here and was complaining about the last superintendent in those books,
I
which
wanted
my
to
son
do
used for his whole education